Well, hello and welcome everyone to our webinar this evening. We're so happy you're here with us today. My name is Katie. I'll be your host, and I will introduce Laura in just a few minutes. She'll be our speaker. So we have a really great presentation for you all today. So thank you for being here. The title is Embracing the Holidays Without Deprivation, Healthy Eating Strategies for Every Festive Eater. So should you have any technical difficulties, there is a phone number to call at the bottom of your screen. Call Citrix support at 1-800-263-6317. So we look forward to an interactive program this evening. Our format includes a short presentation by Laura, followed by an interactive discussion. You'll have a chance to ask questions at the end of the presentation. So to type in a question, just use the questions section of the webinar toolbar that you usually see to the right of your screen. So we look forward to your interaction tonight. So just a disclaimer, we know that the information you're about to hear may motivate you to make lifestyle changes. So please consult your physician before making any changes to your current routine. As a Cecilia Health Certified Diabetes Care and Education Specialist, Ms. Laura will be providing strategies to help you manage your diabetes. This online Q&A session is intended to give general advice, and so this information is not a substitute for personal medical advice and involves the professional opinion of the Cecilia Health Certified Diabetes Care and Education Specialist. So our speaker this evening, our community forum leader, is Miss Laura Ashley Johnson. Um, Miss Laura has been a practicing registered dietitian and certified diabetes care and education specialist for over 10 years. She's from Irvine, Kentucky, but now lives in Houston, Texas. Laura has a passion for nutrition and enjoys cooking for her family. Some of her other hobbies are watching Kentucky basketball, traveling with her family, and spending time with her Norfolk Terrier named Butter. So thank you so much, Miss Laura, for being with us this evening, and you may take it away.
Thank you so much. And I am so happy y'all are here. This is my favorite webinar to teach every year. The holidays are so special, and I know it's really early, but we're decorating this Thursday, and my parents are flying in to help me. They're my elves. So I'm excited you're here, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. You may want to have a pen and paper in hand because I have a lot of ideas that might help you with your goals, with yourself and your family over the holiday season. So here's our agenda today. We're going to talk about some realities on common holiday meals. We're going to talk about some tips for healthy eating and navigating through this buffet of, hiccups that could happen and how you can still be successful. We're going to talk about modifying and preparing healthy meals, taking some what may be less healthy options and turning them to a little bit more diabetes friendly. We're going to talk about portion control, and then we're going to have some time at the end for answering questions. So you can put your question over there at any time. I do glance over. It's kind of a complicated screen, but I do look over, and if I notice that there's one there that's applicable with what we're talking, I'll go ahead and answer it while we're going with the slides. So we're going to start right now. The holiday season. We have lots of, challenging environments that we could run into over the course of the season. We have on the road and airport traveling, parties with, family and work, potlucks and catered meals, beverages, lots of beverages that are seasonal, punches, um, in abundance, and tasty treats, candy dishes on desks, and gifts that you're given. Food is often a gift that you might get. There's lots of moments where we want to think about what do I need to do to be successful and be prepared. So healthy eating for the holidays. There are so many statements I hear during the holiday season. You might have heard or maybe even said some of these. This is the only time of year I do this. Oh, I love this. Tastes just like my mom's or my grandma's. I'll just start doing better after the holidays. But if we think about it, the holidays have already begun. We have holidays year round, right? We have 4th of July, Memorial Day, you know, Thanksgiving, Halloween, Valentine's Day. There's holidays all year. So we always have these moments where we want to be prepared and not let ourselves get off track. Here's another one I hear a lot. I'll just have one. And that's not a lot, but sometimes those little ones, they will start to add up. So here are just a few reality snapshots I have here. Those knickknacks that are here and there, they can really add up with calories, the carbs, and they can also pack on some extra pounds. So we have a couple examples here. First, a peppermint. So one is 20 calories. If you have 10 a day, that would be 200. So having 200 extra calories a day could yield a 5-pound gain. Now switching to chocolate, which we're on the heels of Thanksgiving, Halloween. So you might have some still laying around. One mini Snickers, 100 calories, 10 mini Snickers, 1,000. 1,000 extra calories a day could yield up to 25 pounds a year. And you might say, I don't have a peppermint every day or chocolate bars every day. But if you're like my dad, there's something new every day that he says he doesn't have every day. So they just creep in through various different ways. Things are laying around, environments that you're in, and they can really add up. So how can you compensate? So let's talk about activity and what it would take to burn off these extra munchy calories. So for 200 calories of peppermint, it would take an hour of activity, perhaps an hour walk or a half hour maybe of yard work. For the extra 1,000 for those Snickers, it would take 3 hours of activity. It could be like an hour on the elliptical as well, hour with weights, or an hour of yard work. So it just takes a lot of activity to burn off these extra calories that creep in. So here is another reality here. So this is a big statistic. So an average holiday meal provides 4,500 calories. Let that sink in for a second. You might have met with a dietitian or talked with your diabetes educator on your coaching calls, but a lot of times the calorie needs, they're going to range based on lots of factors, but they're going to be somewhere usually between 1,400 and maybe 2,500. So one meal at 4,500, that is just so much. Also, the average is 229 grams of fat, 389 grams of carbs. No wonder those after meal naps happen so much after the holidays. So where are these high figure numbers coming? So we have several listed here, and for those listening on their phone, we'll touch on each of them too. So first, pecan pie, 500 calories, 70 grams of carbs. 1 cup of stuffing, or as we say in Kentucky, dressing, 350 calories, 35 grams of carbs. 6 ounces of dark turkey meat, 320 calories, no carbs, um, and 12 grams of fat. Mashed potatoes, 1 cup, 320 calories, 30 grams of carbs, and the fat will depend on the additions that are made to the potatoes. Gravy, 206 calories for a quarter cup and 15 grams of carbs. And lastly, green bean casserole, 350 calories for 1 cup and 20 grams of carbs. And really, we just went through what a really common plate is for someone during the holidays. This is just like a really standard meal. So we want to talk some tips now. Because here's the thing, you have to always remember, you can make it through the holidays just fine with your control, not get off track with your goals, be successful, enjoy yourself, and have a wonderful holiday. I always want to circle back to that. So don't skip meals before your holiday gatherings. Have a breakfast or a snack before you leave. For those of you who take medications that are active for long periods of time, skipping meals could actually cause you to have low blood sugars and you'll be hypoglycemic. So going to an event super hungry, you'll be more likely to indulge. And think more about the people you're with than the food that's present. That's something that, sometimes our focus is a lot on the buffet that's there and all the foods and treats there, but really what we're so, especially after these last few years, we're just so darn grateful that our family is there and that we get to be around our friends. We all know, especially it's a time to be grateful and thankful and maybe just shift that focus. And also maybe just socialize, play games, take a walk outside. I have one family on the phone earlier today said they make a memory book every holiday. So they like have a crafting table with like scrapbooks and stuff. So whatever you do, just try not to be right next to the food because that will help you to avoid like grazing what all is there. Consider having some low carb or low calorie starters. Some low carb starter, appetizers you might want to jot down. These are some great go-tos. A veggie tray with like light dip, meatballs with a sauce that's made with maybe a sugar-free jam, a sugar-free barbecue sauce, or a lower carb barbecue sauce. They're like salmon cucumber with a little cream cheese. The little, um, uh, we call them dainty salmon bites, but you put a little cream cheese, basically like one of those bagel schmear things, but without the bagel. So that's really good. Buffalo chicken dip, that's a good one with celery sticks or even soup. Soup, warm foods can really help you feel satisfied because warmth is something that just makes you feel more full. So sometimes just having a veggie-based soup, it can be really low in carb, can make you feel more full and satisfied. Cheese balls with veggies and a charcuterie board. There's lots of veggie grazing boards with meats and cheeses that are really low carb that you could have some great low carb options. Also use a smaller plate to help control your portion sizes instead of a bigger plate. You could use a salad plate, just don't get those big I'm not dropping a brand name, but I know Chinet is one that they make really big plates during the holidays. And if you were to maybe get the portion you intend to get that's a little lighter to help with your sugars, but still having the things that you like, you might feel like your plate's not full, and then it might seem a little less just mentally less satisfying. So maybe have just smaller plates so that it doesn't leave you feeling like not so happy about what you're seeing. So, we eat with our eyes first. So those are definitely very, I know from what patients have told me, these are things that have been really helpful to help them succeed through those meals. But here are some more. Serve meals in the kitchen instead of at the table. So that way you don't have that food right there in front of you, just tempting and taunting you. Plan before you eat and limit the number of starchy things on your plate. So just check out all the options you've got and make a quick mental plan. You might want a small sampling of several things or maybe focus on one or two things. So spend your calories and your carbs wisely and just make sure it's foods you enjoy. If there's something there that you eat year round, maybe pass on those. Maybe it's stuffing because you have mashed potatoes routinely through the year, or maybe you're going to have pumpkin pie because you eat chocolate chip cookies throughout the year, maybe occasionally. So just maybe weigh out, okay, oh, maybe that's not as special right now because I have that routinely, and this one I would rather have that. So those are some things that can help too. So be cautious of cranberry sauce and gravies. I know gravy, I actually had a patient today said they didn't even know there were carbs in gravy, but gravy is made typically with like a roux first, which is butter and flour and maybe some type of liquid with it. Could be just broth or maybe some milk too, but there's definitely carbs in gravy. These can add both calories and carbs more than you might think. I'm going to give you guys a yummy cranberry sauce too. If you want to write this down, it's 3 cups of fresh cranberries, 2 tangerines, and a quarter to a third cup of sugar substitute. A lot of times there is just regular sugar, and usually it's a half a cup to a cup. So using a substitute and then allowing it mix all of that together, chop it real fine, put it in your like a food processor, put it in the fridge. Those flavors will marry. That's a great word for the season, and it'll be really delicious as it gets the tartness out of the cranberries, and then the sweetness will tame down a bit with the meshing of the two together. So again, 3 cups fresh cranberries, 2 tangerines, and a quarter to a third cup of sugar substitute. And don't be afraid to be assertive. If you're not hungry, just say no thanks. I can vouch that this can be really tough when you've got that sweet tooth and that mama or aunt there might insist, just say sweetly, I'm just so full right now that I just really won't enjoy it, but maybe later, or I might take some home for later. Leave the table or room with food when you're full. It it can be tough to resist those tasty pinches and spoonfuls here and there. If you're really hungry, you might just be getting bites everywhere and not really realizing that it's really adding up. Instead, offer to clear the table, wash dishes, take a walk, go play with maybe the grandkids or your kids. That can help distract you. But also, another important thing here I want to make sure you do, check your blood sugar throughout the day. This can help you keep your mindset clear, and it can help guide your choices. Sometimes when you see, and this is really what we encourage you all to do all year, we want you to check your sugars for a reason. And checking your sugars increases your mindfulness of why you want your blood sugars to be in good control and have good diabetes management. So maybe check your sugar in the morning, before you have your breakfast, before you have your lunch, a couple hours after lunch. It may be a little bit more carbs than you would have typically had, and you might see that number be a little bit higher and say, okay, I'm going to definitely cool it on all these snacks that might be still laying out, or dinner might be a little bit lighter because I'm aware that my sugars is kind of still resolving from lunch. So check your sugars. It can help really guide your decision making and help you be really strong with your making your choices. Leftover meals count. Either make or take the amount of food that you will be eating. So that can help with limiting leftovers. So, and what I mean by that, not making your leftovers for home, but what you're going to take. So maybe make just what you think will be consumed that day. Um, and I do see a question here about sugar substitutes, so I'm going to answer that as well. Um, but if you don't want to have leftovers and having those meal um, things available for you to possibly overindulge too many days, then just make enough for what is going to be consumed that day. That's the point. Leftovers are really yummy too. I have a few patients who they say we don't have the side items as extra leftovers, but we do more turkey because then we'll have turkey sandwiches and then we'll have turkey casseroles and things, and that's a great idea because it's protein and it's not something that's going to impact your blood sugar quite as much. I'm going to try to pull this question. Can the cranberry sauce have a mix of sugar and sugar substitute? Absolutely. You can do both. Yeah. And there are some people who say too, like with sugar substitutes, they may be a little bit more sensitive to like an aftertaste of some versus another brand. So I actually have that question here too, like a brand recommendation. So Swerve is one that I like personally. There are a lot out there, but it's Swerve sweetener, and I don't get that aftertaste that I get like from Sweet and Low, or not Sweet and Low, Splenda. I do get that when I use Splenda. It's a great alternative, and I mean, a lot of people use it and have no problem with it, but just to me, I have that personal impact with it. And also with the Swerve sweetener, they have a website, and I was going to tell you about this later, but if you're looking for like what's a diabetes friendly recipe, they have a lot of great recipes that you can choose from on their website. Lots of good cheesecakes and things, so that's good. All right, that's a good question. Thank you for asking that too. All right, so don't be intimidated to make some changes to recipes to help lower the calories and carbs. Even just like you asked, maybe cutting the sugar in half and using some of the sugar substitute. You've cut out a lot of carbs and calories just by doing that. So you can make adjustments. Um, like, and I see another thing, like in pumpkin pie, that's one that sugar substitute can be made instead. Um, there's a mashed potatoes, maybe you don't use heavy whipping cream to make it creamy. Maybe you use half and half or even 2% milk, or you might even use like a mixture of like a cauliflower and a mashed potato type of mashed potatoes for the occasion to kind of cut back on the carbs and calories. So even if it's something that you've done traditionally one way, it doesn't mean that it has to be that way forever. And you might really like it a different way and it not be hurting your blood sugars as much as well. So swap high calorie ingredients for lower ones. That's a great choice. Um, Here's a few other things that are great swaps. Okay, Greek yogurt instead of sour cream if you're using sour cream, so you can use the lighter version. Some recipes you could swap mustard for mayo. That's a bit of a difference, but in some it doesn't play off so much with the flavor being too different. Lots of desserts, you can swap applesauce for oil, lighter butter like Smart Balance instead of butter for those rolls, or in potatoes too. All of them you see here too, those are all great ideas. With these switches noted, here are some recipe swaps. You can take fat-free or light sour cream for dips, spreads. So like if you make a light ranch dip, you can make that a swap. Um, Potatoes, 1 cup of regular sour cream has 35 grams of fat and 320 calories. So these could really help cut down on the calories and fat for sure. 2% or reduced fat cheese and cheese balls, appetizers, 8 ounces of regular has 320 calories and 36 grams of fat. So a great reduction in fat by making that swap. And then Greek yogurt can be used in place of sour cream in dips and appetizers as well. Some recipes you can swap for mayo. So 1 cup of mayo has 1,000 calories and 132 grams of fat. So this could help a lot. In your stuffing, you can load up with more vegetables, or water chestnuts can go in there. There are some lower carb breads you can use as well. I've seen that you might have seen them on they often will have like keto as a line item for what kind of bread it is. It might be a lower carb option. So that's something you could crumble up and make as your stuffing as well. You can substitute 3 tablespoons of cocoa for an ounce of chocolate. You can sub evaporated milk for unsweetened almond milk for cream. Those are great swaps. Um, I would like to return for a moment to the beverages during the holiday season. Eggnog and cider are really common beverages, and 1 cup of regular eggnog has 343 calories and 35 grams of carbs. There are some lighter varieties that are like 100 to 200 calories and about 15 to 30 grams per cup. So that might be something you want to look at with the eggnog options. Apple cider, 120 calories and 30 grams of carbs. So if you might want to think about drinks. So one tip I give, if like eggnog is your thing and it just makes you so happy and you don't want to make a change not having it, that's okay too. Just make the balanced choice. But oftentimes I'll say put your calories in your food and your carbs in your food as much as you can, because drinking them is often less satisfying. Not for everybody, but oftentimes it is. And you do want to make sure you're conscious of alcohol too. If you choose to drink alcohol, just limit the amount you have with food. Talk to your diabetes educator about what's safe, not safe for you. The general recommendation is 1 per day for women and 2 for men. And a drink is considered 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits. So alcohol can really have varying effects on diabetes too. It's kind of person to person. Another question, comment over here. A tip is to use Thanksgiving Day leftovers with more raw vegetables rather than sides. That's excellent. You're absolutely right. Um, that's a great recommendation. Just load up with more of those low carb veggie options on the side. That's Thank you. That's a great suggestion. Let's see if I can get this over here too. I see another one pop up. Well, there's a lot. Let's see if I can expand this. Okay, here we go. What size eggnog? What size apple cider? So those were for a cup that I shared with you. Um, but since you're asking that, I actually had pulled up two in terms of eggnog. So what brand of eggnog is a healthier option? Okay. Califia Farms Holiday Eggnog almond milk has 50 calories and 9 grams of carbs. So what I spoke to earlier was for 1 cup, it had 343 calories and 35 grams of carbs. So down to 50 calories, 9 grams of carbs. Big improvement there. And that was for the serving. And then Silk Soy has 80 calories and 13 grams of carbs. So those are two that are a better eggnog, lower carb option. And there are some eggnogs I've seen, and they're kind of just general brands, like my grocery store here, that they say light. So sometimes light might just be lighter fat, but the carbs might be the same. So just remember your label reading that you do look to see if the carbs are different, or they might, like I said, just be exactly the same. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide here. Great questions. I love looking over there and seeing those pop up over there. So portion size matters. Remember that when you dip your plate, your portion control is one of the biggest keys to your overall success. So make your plate colorful. You know, if you see a plate full of white colors, it's likely lacking veggies and often higher in carbs. So make sure to dip some of those green beans or roasted Brussels or asparagus, and maybe having the low sugar cranberry sauce. It's pretty too and really yummy. Think of the my plate method when you're fixing your plate. So fill half of your plate with veggies. You want to try to be really cautious or avoid casseroles that have heavier cream sauces and buttery bread crusts. I'll tell you, at my family's, that would be cabbage casserole, broccoli casserole. Um, what's another one? There's a corn casserole that has a bread crust. Mac and cheese has a bread topping sometimes. Um, oh goodness, sweet potato casserole doesn't usually have a bread topping, but we know it has brown sugar and butter and sometimes some marshmallows. So, you know, those are going to be more of those dense side ones you have to be really careful for right there. So fill half with veggies, and then make sure you put in your protein section your turkey or your ham, or I'll have some that have beef at Thanksgiving too, if that's turkey's not their thing too. And really be careful of those condiments. They can add up if there's sauces and things you like. Um, there are a lot of sauces that can have some hidden carbs. You might not think it would be sweet or have carbs, but it might. So just be careful for that. And positive reinforcement works. Don't beat yourself up if you overindulge. Just get back on track the next meal. Remember to exercise, move your body. You don't have to work off every extra calorie you've eaten too, but a walk early in the day and after the meal can really help you stay on track and keep you feeling good, and blood sugar is better managed. And just plan and prepare. Like I mentioned earlier, take a look at what's offered before you eat. Contribute items that you know will help provide healthy options for you, some low carb items there. And don't go in famished. That's one that I know a lot of folks do. They save their breakfast so they could eat more at lunch. But you know what? Consistency is really important with diabetes. If you skip a meal, go into the next meal starving, you're going to not only have some strange blood sugar happenings because of it, but you're also going to eat a lot because you're just so hungry. Um, so just don't go in super hungry. Okay. And you can absolutely enjoy the holidays even if you haven't had diabetes. Can you have a gingerbread cookie, fudge, and peanut butter ball in one sitting? No. We know that if you have all of the things, that's not going to bode well for you. But making a couple treats an option and spreading them out, maybe taking some home with you for later and enjoying them over a course of a few days, just like your leftovers too that you might have. I always tell patients there's no food that you can't have. It's all about just being mindful and finding good balance. We have another question here. Um, okay. Oh, so yes, this person thought that they were speaking it, but I don't hear anything. I only hear myself. But I'm going to read it. So, um, being from Louisiana, I like spicy foods, and we like to deep fry our turkey. Is this also have to do with portions? Yeah. So turkey and deep frying, really turkey. So as far as diabetes goes, turkey and deep frying it doesn't add any carbs. So you've just added more fat to it. And um, so that's not going to be necessarily something that's going to have a big impact on your sugars. It will, a good deep fried turkey is delicious, I will say. One thing about it though, I will say deep fried turkeys are often that it just sears the outside and traps the moisture inside. So it will yield a little bit higher fat, but it's not as high as fat as like say fried chicken where it soaks up more of the fat into a crust as well. So if you eat the skin and on that turkey, it's going to raise the fat. So it's not going to raise your sugar necessarily. It is going to be higher in fat though. So portion sizes. So a deck of cards is usually about 3 to 4 ounces of meat. So if you're trying to be careful for your portion of meat, that can be a great kind of guide to help you too. That's a good question. And want to be at your house. Oh, that's a good turkey. All right. So, healthy holiday eating contract. This is something I just like to read out loud. It's kind of like you're just talking to yourself about what your intentions are for the holiday. So, I know that it's possible to enjoy the wonderful food of the season and keep my blood sugar stable. Today, I make a promise to myself to make healthy food choices during the holiday season and balance my food intake. I will limit the sweets and desserts I eat. I will avoid grazing between meals. If I drink, I will do so in moderation. I will maintain my activity level and I will check my blood sugar throughout the day to make sure I'm within my target ranges. I promise to enjoy this special time of the year and give thanks for my health, happiness, and the love of family and friends. And I really think this is a great kind of self-talk to say for for yourself because it wraps up everything. You're still going to enjoy it. You're not going without, and you're going to have maybe a little more than you might typically have on your average day, but you're going to get right back on track that next meal, that next morning, no problem. Okay? So, if you want to reference this webinar between now and Thanksgiving and between now and Christmas, we do record it and it will be put up on the website through the link that you came on here with. So if you want to go back and read this again to yourself, you absolutely can. And we hope that it really is helpful. We have another question here too. What is eating things in moderation? Moderation is different for everyone. Is it once a month, once a week? Yeah, so moderation, you're right, it is different for everyone. Um, we tried to count one day like how many holidays there are in a year that the average person would celebrate, and we only could get about 8 or 9. I'd say it's probably 7 to 11. I don't, if you give it. But if on those days, say for ladies, we for an average meal, we speak to having about 30 to 45 grams of carbs a meal, and for men, it's often 45 to 60. So sometimes on these holidays, you find yourself having just a little bit more, and that is okay because it's one meal and you have maybe, like I said, 7 to 11 a year. So having a meal that many times a year is not going to get you off track with your diabetes management. Okay. Some folks are in a place with their medication management where you are very um, specific, like with what carbs you eat, with how much medication you take. So there is maybe a little bit more mindfulness you have to do to just to protect your sugars from going too low, going too high, and you might be the one that has to take your blood sugar a little more often just to ensure that you're not out of an unhealthy range. But moderation is it's a very general term, but what I mean by that and all us dietitians is that if you want that ginger, here's an example. I'm looking at a ginger snap cookie right now. I might really want that ginger snap cookie tonight, and I already had like my Thanksgiving meal for lunch. So I might just tonight for dinner have leftover turkey and green beans, no carbs, because I'm going to get probably 30 grams of carbs in that cookie that I'm going to eat. I just made the balance. I cut out carbs here because I wanted it there. Um, I had a patient today do that with, they were going to the movies tonight and they were going out to eat before and they were going to a Mexican restaurant and I said, did they plan on eating popcorn? They said yes. And we talked about how much carbs in different popcorns. And so they said, you know what? I'm just going to eat vegetables and protein and then go to the movies and eat all the carbs in that protein portion or in that carb amount that I'm allotted. And I said, perfect. Balance and moderation. You can't have both, but he made a decision and it's going to work well in his favor. I got another question here too. Okay, eating better on the holidays is about getting creative. Perhaps if you wanted 2 or 3 desserts, you can slice your desserts in little appetizer pieces and only have 1 or 2 pieces, right? You are absolutely right. Um, I actually just this holiday, so talk about pumpkin pie. I don't have the numbers pulled up for that one here right now, but um, like little biscuit cutters that are round. You can take a pumpkin pie and go all around the pumpkin pie and make little tiny round pumpkin pies. And it's going to be only like 1 or 2 bites. And you could have that with just a little cream on top. And maybe you also have for the other, what's another common dessert? Everybody's different with their desserts. It might be fudge. Now, fudge packs a lot of punch. So yeah, maybe you have like a half a piece of fudge and one tiny pumpkin pie. You're absolutely right. And another tip for this, like in terms of appetizer or desserts, you might even space it out a little bit. I get so excited to give you ideas that I sometimes talk quickly. So if I am going too fast, I do apologize. But one thing that I'm doing with my family for the holidays, since you mentioned appetizers, because I do have some family that are having to be very carb conscious. Um, and I'm going to have on the table, and you could do this individually or you could do it on a big scale too. We talked about charcuterie boards earlier. So I bought these little tiny charcuterie boards at Hobby Lobby. They're about 4 by 7 inch, really cute. And on the table, I'm going to put one on everybody's plate with just like some cucumber slices and like a dip and a couple little small pieces of cheese and a couple crackers, a slice of apple, and a few almonds. And that is a really low carb appetizer, but very satisfying because it's lots of flavors, lots of textures. Oh, I forgot meat. I was going to put a little piece of prosciutto on there, but you could put like um, salami or any meat too. And I just know I've done this before, and they were like, that was the cutest thing. Everybody loved it, and it was really satisfying. So yeah, get really creative. That's part of the fun with the holidays. You're absolutely right. That was a great comment and suggestion too. Okay, let me see if I can make this even bigger because I think that we're getting. I'm gonna pull this over here. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? These were great. Give it a second here. All righty. Well, we have concluded. If I see anything here in just a moment, you'll let me know. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season. Here's the next webinar if you want to take a look here. It'll be December 14th. Take control, inspiring tools and tips for becoming your own diabetes coach. And then the first of the year will be New Year, the new year for the new you, diabetes resolutions that stick. So I have enjoyed, seen a lot of people on here. Oh, thank you so much too. This has been a lot of fun, my favorite one. Happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays. I hope you enjoy all the moments you get to have with your family and all that yummy food too.